Okay, we're good to go.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the ordinary council meeting being held on Tuesday, the 26th of March, 2024. I'd like to begin with the acknowledgement of the Kaurna people as the traditional custodians of the land. City of Prospect acknowledges that we are on the traditional country of the Kaurna people of the Adelaide Plains region, and we pay our respect to elders past, present and emerging. We recognise and respect their cultural heritage, beliefs. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the ordinary council meeting being held on Tuesday and relationships with the land, and we acknowledge that they are of continuing importance to the Kaurna
Oh, I am so over this. So over this thing.
This is the L.
Oh, I hate it. I've hated it since the moment I arrived. Oh,
So it's just that it comes.
It's the L, the L.
All right, well, we're thank you so. We don't read it or hear that.
for those listening at home, we've taken a brief adjournment to fix the audio visual. It's now fixed, so we'll be reconvening in a few minutes.
Yes. Yes. Pleasure, everyone's company,
Round two.
That's great. Yeah, okay.
Is that done? So you're I'm still at 3:00. Really lovely day.
What we do is. In a while.
Again.
I'll send you an Yeah.
Okay, so we do the 806 and we will do when it's.
It's on.
Okay, let's go, everybody. Councillor Nelson. Councillor Nelson.
Introduce the next item. We've got a quorum, so we're good to go.
Item 10 point. Have a bit on that.
Yeah.
So item 10.3, curbside waste and initiatives resources annual update. Recommendations on page 142. Do I have a mover for this motion? Deputy Mayor Mark Greig, would you like to speak to the motion?
Look, just to say, I support the motion. I do support the code fee. On first read, I didn't, and second read, I did. So unless convinced otherwise, I'll be supporting that particular recommendation in the paper. Happy just for it to be debated out by members.
Thank you. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Stanton, would you like to speak to the motion?
I have a question for the director. With the mattress pickup that is done by East Waste, is that done purely by East Waste or is that then subcontracted out to other contractors?
CEO?
I'm sorry, I must confess I was doing something else for a moment there.
The
Can you
question
repeat?
was, are the mattresses picked up by East Waste or does East Waste sub that job out to other contractors?
Mr. Delana.
Chair, to be honestly, I'm not positive whether it's actually formally supposed to make it a subcontractor to do it. I'll take on notice and get back to you. At the end of the day, you pay for the service, just get it recycled. That's the part. So I'm not 100% sure.
Thank you.
And the reason I asked that is that I've noticed that the mattress collection is done by a guy in a ute with a big car trailer and just piles them all up. And I'm noticing in the report that every time there was contribution that was involved, the actual pickup reduced by 50%. And I am concerned that if that is then contracted out all of a sudden for no apparent reason, there's going to be a contractor who's going to lose 50% of his business without really kind of knowing why. And, you know, while we're doing something for the community, I would hate for someone to, you know, have their business put at threat just because we decide we don't want to, or we, you know, we need a co-contribution. So that part of it does worry me. I get the idea of it. I also worry that, if the whole process reduces by 50% and 50% less of people are putting out their mattresses, where are these mattresses going? It did say in the report that the councils didn't notice any increase in illegal dumping. I always worry when we reduce a service such as this, are people hoarding stuff? Are they just not putting it out, or are they dumping it elsewhere? Or
Is this still a question?
no, this is basically
Well, you asked a question.
discussion.
Well, I was looking for a seconder and you asked a question, so I'm just wondering whether you're still,
No, I'm finished with the question.
okay,
I was just making a point, sorry.
you can make that in a little while,
Okay.
unless you'd like to move the second motion.
Yeah, I did second it.
Did you?
Yeah.
Did you?
I did.
Okay, sorry.
Consider it seconded.
Great. Sorry to interrupt.
No, that's right.
You're just saying it.
Yeah, I am. So I always worry when we reduce the service and there's notable reduction in stuff that comes out from people's houses and yards, or whatever. Where does it go? It's you know, it's matter. It doesn't not exist. It goes somewhere. So I always, where does it go? So.
Yep, good point. Okay, any further points to be made? Councillor Barnett.
Yes, I've read about the two neighbouring town of Walkerville and the Adelaide Hills Council seem to have had success with the co-contribution fee for the collection of mattresses and on ensemble basis. So I think, well, you know, let's give it a go, and I think, you know, you're going good to go and see what happens. And then, I'd be in favour of that, to give it a go. It's my understanding that there are companies around Australia, I don't know which one is Bates uses, that specialise in recycling the mattresses. So that's my understanding of what happens.
Thank you, Councillor Barnett. Councillor De Backer.
Yeah, look, I don't know if I understand points. Looking at Adelaide City, City of Walkerville and Adelaide Hills Council, they're very different profiles. Again, I come back to density. So we've got a lot of apartment living, unit living, and, you know, we've got people doing Airbnbs and all that kind of thing as well. I'm just concerned that if push comes to shove and people need to get rid of a mattress, they'll get rid of it elsewhere. And it tends to be in those darker, less well-lit parts of the city that we do have issues with illegal dumping. And I'm just referencing here, because I'm never good at summing it up, correlation and causation. I think just because they've introduced a fee somewhere and it's shown that, you know, there's less pickups, doesn't necessarily mean that in this city that's going to happen. So I'm less likely to support it. I'm going to consider the report, but I'm not going to endorse the charging. So I think that's, you know, an expectation our community have come to expect.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Councillor Nelson, then Councillor Tweedledee.
I've really struggled with this last few days, and I think it's mainly because we're not offering any alternatives. It's kind of like either you pay or you don't. You know, just this week I've received emails from two residents asking me where I dump my additional green waste, because they just spent $100 at the local dump because we didn't have any options. We didn't have any deals with the likes of Norma. I typically go to Research Road, Baraka, and they look after me and everything else, but we don't have any reciprocal rights. I don't know what's been done in the past. I just think this makes up a much bigger discussion or a workshop around some sort of reciprocal rights for other areas where we can look at this type of thing rather than just imposing a $27 fee to take a mattress away. I just think it's just a too easy option for a much bigger problem. So I won't be supporting it.
Thank you. Councillor Tweedledee.
Yeah, I agree with, councillor Tobacco. I won't be supporting, the second part to the recommendation. I did go around and ask some of my neighbours and, you know, so that to ask where they stand, and they were like, well, if, you know, cost of living and, you know, having to pay $27 to pick up, you know, what's to say that I go and illegally dump it somewhere, like who's gonna know? So I don't know, I'm just thinking, just in terms of cost of living, I don't want to be introducing this fee, and I think councillor Tobacco's right, it's, you know, it's sort of like our residents sort of, this is the expected service that, you know, they've had it for a very long time. And so I don't feel that introducing this, especially when we've got, you know, we're wanting to introduce the citywide FOGO initiative as well. I don't think this is the right time to do this, so I won't be supporting that second part to the recommendation.
Thank you. Any further discussion before we head for summing up? That being the case, I'll head back to Deputy Mayor Mark Groot to sum up, please.
Thank you. I was hoping if there was concern about item part 2, that someone might move an amendment to have a report back to council maybe after 6 months, and of course, the moment's gone for that. But it might say that administration just picks up as a notion. It'd be interesting to see if this does get up, to have a report back in 6 months to see what the impact of a policy decision such as this would be. I think in terms of savings to our council, we're talking about money that can go into our operating projects, into other waste initiatives, into a whole range of other things. And I don't think it's unreasonable for mattresses, which is a bulky item, hard to recycle, to have a co-contribution payment for members of the public to dump those. I don't think it's unreasonable. As I said, when I first read it, on first glance, I thought, yeah, that is unreasonable. As I kind of looked into it a bit more, I think it's perfectly reasonable for us on that particular item. I wouldn't support any further reductions around hard waste collection. We've already reduced them, I think, from 4 to 3 a year. That's correct. And without any sort of pushback at all, I think this is a really proper initiative and one that we should support. I don't think we'll necessarily have the numbers on the floor, and then so be it. But I do think it is something that we should really seriously consider, given that the cost of recycling and disposal of mattresses is quite high. All that said, I think the other bits in the report, of course, is this is not just about mattresses, it's about a whole range of other waste initiatives. It shows some really good education opportunities. Talks a little bit about the FOGO trial, and we should recognise those as really positive things. We do try and lead in this council around our green waste and other initiatives. The point around how we do dispose of green waste is one that this council has been tackling with for many years. I remember Councillor Standen in the previous term of government council talking about this as well. So it is one that's still a little bit unresolved outside of FOGO trial, where there was weekly green waste collections, which has an impact. Beyond that, I've read something that had quite resolved in the council. But look, I support both. I presume you'll take them parts out there, but I support both motions, and I would encourage members to consider still item 2, with the view that administration might come back to us after 6 months with a report on impacts. And if it's not working, we change our minds and we go back to another alternative. And both recommendations forward.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Mark Groot. As suggested, we'll take this one in parts. So part 1, all those in favour? Against, carried unanimously. Part 2, all those in favour? Against? Or all?
Whose time?
Look, I, at the risk of not just saying yes or no, I don't think $27 to dispose of a mattress is too difficult. If you wanted to take that to the dump, it would cost you twice that much at least, plus the inconvenience. So I am voting in support of part 2. So that motion is carried. Item 10.4, Australian Local Government Association National General Assembly recommendations on page 153. Do I have a mover for this motion? Councillor Becker. Oh, sorry, yeah, sorry. Before we move and second and vote, we need to put some names in here. So, I need to suspend the meeting. Yeah, does anyone, I won't suspend meeting procedures. Is anyone else, apart from myself, intending on going to the National General Assembly this year? Councillor Nelson, anybody else? Councillor Nguyen, excellent. So if we can put Councillor Nelson and Councillor Nguyen.
A point of order. It doesn't explain if they're going to be attending or by virtual. Which is the cost.
We need to specify that here, do you think, CA?
That would be helpful.
Yes.
So we should just change part 2 to say to be registered to attend in person. You happy with that?
Yes.
CA?
Yes.
A point of order or something.
Yeah, in person. That's fine.
Thank you. Part 3, I'm only able to attend the first day of the General Assembly.
Chris, excuse me, can we have more than 2? There's no reason I can't have 2.
As many people as we can go.
I thought there might be one. Yes, that could be hand up.
No, I was gonna.
Oh, okay, sorry, I just thought.
No, 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 no.
I do this with a hand on.
No, I was gonna nominate, I was gonna
Right,
nominate.
okay. You want to do this out?
Yeah.
Do you remember sharing a very small Uber with Alison, Robin and
Yeah,
David?
and you got COVID.
That's fun.
Anybody else whilst we're calling it out? No, okay, no worries. So I'm not attending the second day, which is when the voting is on. I've got another conference I've got to head to. So I'm looking for, I guess, a volunteer, because I think that the voting is typically on the second day. So fastest finger first.
I did it last year. Happy to give Trina a turn if she wants to.
Sounds like
Lots of reading. Lots of reading.
Yeah, hundreds of motions.
Hundreds. Yeah. Good luck. I can relax.
Okay, so let's go back to the start. So looking for a mover, I think Councillor Rebecca, were you?
Yeah, I was just gonna, yeah, so it's a great opportunity and I think it's great that a couple of our new councillors new mayor going across. I think it's a really good chance to network and copy and paste some great low cost ideas that other people are doing that we can implement City Prospect and share the good work that we're doing here. So really endorse it.
Thank you. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Deputy Mayor Mark Rowe.
What councillor back is that? Can't you check those? Is there any conflict of interest requirements?
We checked for that and we don't believe there is.
Personal benefits.
Enjoy yourself.
Sure.
It's can.
But no, look, I've been to a couple of these. I think they're fantastic to go to, a great opportunity to network and get some context in which we operate.
Thank you. Any further discussion, anything that hasn't been raised as of yet? If not, I'll head back to Councillor DeBacker to sum up. Okay, let's put that to the vote. All those in favour? Against, carried unanimously. Item 10.5, appointment of independent members to the Council Assessment Panel. Recommendations on page 157. Do I have a mover? Deputy Mayor Mark, would you like to speak to the motion?
I'm happy not to speak.
Thank you. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Tweenywin, would you like to speak to the motion?
Yep, just reading through the report, I think the 3 people that's been nominated, they're quite skillful in and have talent in the area, so I think they're worthy of being appointed to the position. So yeah.
Thank you. Any further discussion, anything else that hasn't been raised before? Councillor Nelson.
Just a couple of comments, if I may. I can say that working with both Will and Rob is excellent. They're both very, very professional, both very well rounded in their experiences. Probably my 2 concerns is the fact that both Will and Rob have had 3 conflicts in the last five meetings. So that's been a bit of a concern for me. I know it's only 3 in the last 12 months, but it has been conflicting more and more with the major developments going on in Prospect. And I think from my side, I'm more concerned this wasn't brought to us in January. Here we are, the term finishes on Friday, and here we are the Tuesday before their term ends, coming. I get that if we don't pass this motion, then it'll just be the deputy member and everything else, but I think this still should have come to us, just the point for executive should have come to us 2 months ago, not the month that the terms end. But I can say that I do I do recommend the performance of both Rob and Will.
Thank you. Any further discussion? If that's the case, Deputy Mayor Mark Green, would you like to sum up? Let's put it to the vote. All those in favour? Against, carried unanimously. Item 10.6, appointment of independent member, Audit and Risk Committee recommendations on page 161. Do I have a mover for this motion?
I'll move it.
Oh, Councillor Barnett will like to speak to the motion.
Well, I was gonna say I'll move it for, so it gets discussed.
Thank you. Do I have a seconder?
Me.
Councillor Tweenwin would like to speak to the motion. Is there anything that anyone would like to raise that hasn't already been raised? Oh, you go ahead.
Oh, no,
No, I'll go last.
okay.
Point of order.
So look, I'll support the motion, and have no sort of real fundamental issues with the appointment of a member. My sort of hesitation and all that is audit and risk committees. I think it's always good to get fresh eyes into this space, and I was just trying to refresh my memory as to when Mr. Farley Jones was first appointed. I think it was back in 2017, I think, 2018. Is that correct?
Fourth term, I believe.
We believe fourth term, I may have to take that on notice. It's certainly been here ever since I have been, and I understand sometimes for that.
And look, I don't know Mr. Petty Jones at all, so I can't ask him on his suitability or otherwise. I'll take the view of the panel who made the recommendation, and I'll be happy to accept that. But just my nervousness is, I think sometimes a little bit like auditors, you don't keep them forever, you turn them over, and we've got a very stable audit committee, and I think that's at one level very, very positive. At another level, sometimes you get the chip up to them. So I'd support this. I think it comes back in another couple of years. I probably wouldn't be quite so supportive, but happy to support this motion.
Councillor Backer, then Councillor Nelson.
Question then possibly amendment. Is it, given the nature of the audit committee and our budgets, I just wanted to do the terms of reference. Is it possible to appoint for a 1-year term?
Not to take that on. Do we know, Mel?
It's for independent members, it's 3 years within the current.
I wouldn't recommend it for an independent member. It's different for an elected member representative. But
but it
for
has to be
independent members,
3
it's, I wouldn't recommend an ad hoc change it to the terms of reference to facilitate that.
Thank you, CEO. Anything else, Councillor Backer? Councillor Nelson?
Yeah, similar point to Deputy Mayor Ruth. I think that it's always good to get some fresh eyes on committees. Again, I've only had 2 meetings on the A&R committee, and Betty Jones seems like the exceptional member. But if we have a look at the fresh blood we breathed into the council assessment panel last year when we applied 3 new members to that, and the landscape changed completely. And I think that's beneficial to every committee to get some fresh eyes on a regular basis. And after receiving the report that I think we received yesterday with the other applicants, there was certainly some valid applicants. I'm not telling anything against the selection panel there at all, but there certainly seemed to be some very good applicants and some different skill sets that I would like to think we should be taking into consideration more, and potentially even, you know, whenever these terms of reference come in, whether we need to look at limits of terms for members so that we can get some fresh eyes and fresh ears and fresh ideas onto these committees.
Yeah, from the chair, I think that's a reasonable point and something we might look at in the future. Being on the committee, Peter Farley Jones was definitely the candidate that best fitted the bill. It was a good opportunity to review a number of good candidates, but there was no one else, in our opinion, who stacked up as well as he did. And the point about fresh eyes is a good one, and the counter to that is that someone who's very familiar with the landscape here has got the insights and the nuances around what we do here and how we do it. So I think there's benefits of longevity as well as there might be benefits of fresh eyes in the future, but definitely take on board your point. If there's nothing else, I'll head back to councillor Barnett to sum up.
No. We said, but hopefully, I make a decision.
Thank you. Let's put that to the vote. All those in favour? Sorry? We can take it in parts if you like. Yeah, sure. Part one, all those in favour? Carried unanimously. Part two, all those in favour? Motion carried. Okay. Item 11, general business of an urgent matter. I believe there's a motion that we're putting forward that will soon appear on your screens. So I'll give everybody a minute or two to read through this. So, has everyone had a chance to read through it? Sorry, has everybody had a chance to read through? So I'm happy to declare it as an urgent item, and I will be seeking a mover to get the motion on the floor. Would anybody like to move the motion? Deputy Mayor Mark Creed.
I'll do right for move the motion, which I totally will support all of it. Is there some information that I would like to probably see it?
Shall we suspend meeting procedures for a few minutes to discuss if you'd like?
I'm always supportive of suspending the procedure.
I know you are. You're always a big fan of that. Let's suspend meeting procedures for up to 10 minutes if we need. Can I have a show of hands to that effect? Thank you. So we're going to be suspending meeting procedures till 8:45. I'll kick off with Deputy Mayor Mark Creed.
So look, for me, it's a couple of things. Why? I think I know the answer to that question, but I've not seen this until this evening, like everyone else. So why? Timing, I understand probably want to spend some money before the end of the financial year, but I'm just thinking between now and the end of June is very busy for lots of us around the table, and we also have budget, so timing could be later, but prepaid now. And just trying to understand the intention of, is it everyone or some of us? They're from my first three questions.
I might throw that to the mayor to throw to the red for some answers, unless the mayor wants to take that one. Sorry, the CEO.
I'm happy to have a crack at it. Members, this is a team effort, I could say, between the director, mayor and myself. There is a draft roadmap that we've been working on now for a couple of months, and members are aware that, you know, a very early version was floated at a workshop a couple of months ago that we had on the subject. It anticipated a study tour. Members at the time discussed it in the workshop. And the challenge we've been having is obviously trying to reconcile available funding this year and the desire to move this forward at a pace that meets elected members' expectations against the challenge of obviously minimising necessary funding for next year for reasons that everyone will be familiar with based on the discussion earlier tonight, and trying to get that balance right. There is some money this year that would enable us to run the study tour if we can get it done before the end of the financial year, and provided we can probably keep it to no more than 3, possibly 4 elected members. Any more than that, we're going to struggle this year, especially because we also need to draw on that same budget for ALGA, and we now know that 3 members will be attending. We can probably accommodate both, but no more. So if we wanted to cut 8 or 9 elected members over to Perth and spend a couple of days there, it's probably not going to be affordable. But if we can rationalise it to 3 or 4 members, then it absolutely is. There's obviously work that will be happening over the next few months, including not next week, but the week after. You will be all having a workshop in relation to the community engagement aspects, early community engagement aspects of the project. And that will trigger, no doubt, some questions from members, but also get thought processes moving in terms of where this might be going. The merits of a tour and how that might assist you in your decision making, not just in the next 2 weeks, 4 weeks. You're going to have to adopt a roadmap at the end of April, so there's a report coming to you at that point, but also in the months and potentially years beyond. Members, obviously, who are involved in the design and delivery of this facility, as I understand it, took study tours, at least one at the time. The idea is, again, to give members a sense of what's possible. Now, understand, of course, that timing, the merits, and whether or not this is something that fits within your expectations as elected members or those of your communities, that is up for debate. And clearly that would be something that one would imagine you will debate as part of this motion. But the reasoning behind it is there is funding available in this financial year in a constrained capacity that, you know, could deliver this. And I think my understanding is the mayor's expectation is that you would debate that tonight and whether or not that the timing is right and you feel it's a good use of the funds at this point. Without putting words in your mouth, Mr. Mayor, that's
spot on. Yeah, there's around $9,000 left in the relevant budget for this financial year. That's taking into account the recent approval of people to travel to Canberra for the conference.
At the risk of having missed something, I'd also like, Mr. Pearce, is there anything I've missed there or maybe that you think needs to be added to that discussion?
Yeah, through CEO, through the mayor, just a couple of other points. Deputy Mayor Groot asked why. I think important question, and one of the reasons is that the lead consultant at the moment, Holmes Dyer, has recommended Perth because it's got two relevant projects that have synergies with the Prospect Lifestyle Precinct. Subi East, which is the Subiaco development, which is probably 2 to 3 years ahead of where we're at with the PLP in terms of division statement and so on. And the other project is Claremont on the Park, which is seeing something that's been I guess, delivered at the completion stage. So to actually see some projects that involve sport and recreation facilities and how urban development can result in an outcome to deliver community enhanced facilities and parks and an integration of that kind of precinct to touch it, feel it, smell it, breathe it, will provide a sense of inspiration to, I guess, get the impetus to drive the rest of the planning forwards. The reason again for this resolution now, prior to the April report that will seek your endorsement of the roadmap, is so that you can put placeholder in your diaries, and we can book some flights that are to Perth about $200 to 80. They're quite cheap. So when we talk about just to get 6 people across there and back for a day, an overnight on a day is going to be about 6 or 7 grand. So it's not too bad, including the village and a night's accommodation. So the costs now are effective, and also we have a couple of days penciled in, I think in June 13, 14 and June 19, 20, 2 weeks apart, where Holmes Dyer have availability. We also have a touch base with Development WA, the equivalent of their renewal SA over there, and developers for some prezos at both of those facilities. So the stars are aligning, but we felt we had to just get it to the table tonight, a little bit ahead of time, if you like, so to allow a little bit of pre-planning, that's all.
Yeah.
Hopefully that answers that question. CEO.
Yeah.
Thank you. Councillor Barnett.
Yeah, I've just been thinking through, when we came, to do this building, it was most invaluable. We went to Melbourne. I think that all of the council, but that's understandable to Melbourne. Yeah, I'm just thinking I would like to perhaps put my hand up because I deliberately haven't been going to the Canberra ones because I thought it's only fair to allow our newer elected members, to be going to those sorts of things. So, and if we did need to save any more money, I do have some very close friends that live in very close to where we're going. might rather put me up. I don't know if they put you up in a tent out the back, but others. Yeah, so, yeah. I just think, you know, perhaps it's a bit fair if it's a training budget and that those that aren't going to the Canberra one, you know, might better allow some of us who perhaps then go to this one.
Thank you. Yeah, the trip to Melbourne, when we were considering what to do here, was excellent. We went to 3 or 4 locations and we saw things that were great and things that were actually pretty bad, and you wondered how they got through. And that was a very informative way of helping give what we might do here some context. And I think it definitely contributed to what we ended up with.
Yes.
We also did a tour around local libraries and council facilities as well, so that the combination of the two.
Yeah, I forgot to add that if, I don't know if it's possible, if the ones that are going to Canberra might be able to sneak in some time if there's some facility over there.
There's some discussion around potentially Monica being a suitable facility to take a look at for the members who are going
Yeah.
to Canberra. Slightly different look and feel of the facility, but in many ways has some parallels.
Just to maximise, you know, our budget.
Sorry, you're first, Tweet.
Just a question, is this for a day, 2 days, overnight? How
I
many?
believe it's overnight,
Overnight?
heading out on the Thursday afternoon, evening, coming back on the Friday. So a full day in Perth. Sorry, any more questions?
No.
Tweet? Jason?
I love these things. I love debate because we can put forward our opinion, whether it be right or be wrong. Being in the construction industry for nearly 30 years, I've seen this happen a lot. My personal view, this is a classic textbook junket. I don't see the value in using ratepayers' money to jump on a plane and go and see something that you can look at video walkthroughs, or you can drive the road and see something similar. I would struggle. I do see some benefit. If I choose to go, I'll be using my own money. If I do see the benefit, but I can't support this. For me, it's just, particularly with what we're doing with budgets and with money. I get that we've got $9,000 in the training budget, but one of my favourite sayings is just because you can doesn't mean you should. I just see this as a complete waste of money, but again, that's my opinion and I won't be supporting it.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Councillor Beckett?
Yeah, look, I'm similar. I see the, you know, the value in some of it, but there are different ways to do it. And yeah, I was certainly thinking of going to Melbourne on my own money to have a one that was over there. I think, you know, if it had been that important, it should have been in the agenda. You know, I think visibility is really important for our community on these kind of things. And the last thing we want is, you know, fodder for the advertiser. You know, I'm not going to use that word, but yeah, it's very sensitive at the moment. And yeah, I'll want to support it.
All right, we've probably got time for one more point of discussion before we head back into session. Councillor Stanton.
I think it's great value in going and feeling the space and being part of the space. Having seen things, researching travel before and looking at things online and going, that would be interesting to go see, and then you finally get there and you get a sense of scale and space and presence. I think it's incredible. I think it's great. I think to go and look at these places and feel what they're like before you commit to something as big as what we're doing, I think is very important. Happy to put my hand up to go if I can get those, if the dates align with when I'm, you know, cardio. I'd love to go along. I missed out on the one for the click when it was the click originally, because I was fresh into a new job and missed out on that one, and everyone said it was just a great experience to go and do. So happy to be, really happy. You have me happy to be a part of this one.
Councillor Holt.
See, I think this can be quite valuable, particularly the 2 venues, the 2 separate locations, at different stages. I think there is a lot we can gain from this, but at the same time, I'm quite happy to pay. I actually have a sort of I need to spend money on a ticket, otherwise I lose it soon. So I'm quite happy to pay. I've got relatives in Perth, so I'm quite happy to pay. If you are, I think if we limited it to perhaps 2 or 3 councillors, and you know, it wouldn't be you know, it wouldn't be like a junket, really, like
Yeah.
a group of us going, but I think there's some great benefit for as many as possible to see just the stages and just to get a real feel, because it is a big project where we'll be working on, so I think we need to have that kind of that imagery and that vision of how it will all work. But I think that, you know, I'm quite happy to, like I said, I do actually have to buy a ticket before, I think it's 30th June or I lose it, so. Yeah.
So-
Could I just comment, like,
Last
you
one.
know, yeah, sorry, but just following up from what one of our other councillors saying about calling things a junket and that. Well, you know, I just think that's going a bit too far. I mean, I could call the Canberra one a bit of a junket, honestly. And that's far more expensive than this. So I just think you have to be careful about the terminology that we use. And so I'll just leave it at that.
Thank you. So I guess we're looking for a couple of names before we go back into session and vote on this. So
We have Christina who's expressed interest. Mark has expressed interest. Lillian has indicated she's happy to go, but will pay her own way, so she probably wouldn't need to be added
Yep.
to the motion. I understand Jason and Alison aren't interested in going. I'm not sure about,
If I went, I'd pay myself.
okay, so again, you would need to be added
Rate pay, something we'd added, no.
to the motion, so that, I'm not sure, Trin, if you'd be interested or able to potentially through the week. So maybe, Twee,
No.
So
children,
no.
kids, no.
Mark
I would need to know the dates.
is a maybe, and yeah, so we've got Mark
the
and.
proposed dates are in June, but that's about as far as I'm.
So June, I'm running over for 1 week, so I need to know the dates.
So I think we have two who would like to go, two who, if they went, would pay their own way, and two who would go subject to dates. That's what I have, plus the mayor. Yes, and one who won't go. Oh, I'm missing here. Sorry, so Christina is a yes, Mark is a yes, Lillian pay her own way, Jason will pay his own way if he went. We've got Mayor, Deputy Mayor, and Councillor Nguyen, Trin Nguyen. Twee, you've indicated you're a no, so there we go. So. John, you seem to think we can accommodate 6?
Well, if I agree to actually want, but seats was considered around that, it's gonna have pretty good demand.
My feeling is you can afford that, members, based on what's left in the budget. So, and noting that it's possible that either Mark, Deputy Mayor, or Councillor Nguyen might not be able to go, that would probably give us the headroom. If everybody went, we'd probably be able to still accommodate it with our.
So how do we get that into this motion without committing Councillor Nguyen and Councillor Group? We haven't entered it based on availability.
To a subject to availability, I think. So you'd add, we've got, Councillor Barnett, Councillor Trin Nguyen, Councillor, Mark Standen. Yes. Councillor Mark Standen. Deputy Mayor Groot. And that's it. Because we've got Lillian who would pay her own way, Jason would pay his own way, we can't go. And Alison's. That's it.
So yeah, we have that.
Yes.
Okay, let's bring us back into session. Councillor Groot, I don't believe you've spoken to the motion.
I don't, no, I haven't.
That's the question. So over to you for your 5
I'm going to
minutes.
start now. Look, overall, I am supportive of these things and hearing the respectful debate about, you know, the value of these or otherwise. I was just looking back through my old emails. I think I've travelled twice since I've been into outside of Algo conferences. We did go to Melbourne to look at library options, and that was incredibly valuable in shaping this building. And that was just a day trip. It was a sourcing day trip. It was a very long day, but very, very useful. And I've also been to Perth, where we were looking at Main Street quite some time ago. So look, I think there is absolute value in this. I think it is justifiable. I think it does pass the pub test. If you're going over there and you have to be catching a footy game or something like that, that probably doesn't pass the pub test. But I think if you're there for business, I'm comfortable with that. As I said, it's unlikely I can go depending on the day. So I'm probably going to be a no, but I'm happy to be in the mix just in case. I'd encourage those councillors who do want to go but want to pay their own way to do what they feel like they need to do. But I think this is a legitimate part of who we are as a business. I travel quite frequently for my work. I do that paid for by my employer because there's value in me going interstate to do different things. So this is no different in terms of the council being our employer, albeit in a slightly different context of employer, but still we get paid to be here in some way, and we are here to represent the city of Prospect. I would also expect that at the end of this, whoever does go, either provides a presentation or written report in terms of what they discover, what they found, and that would be probably part of that sort of debriefing process. So that those of us who don't go can actually see what they saw through their eyes, I guess. I've been to both those sites, and I think there is value in going to see them. I've not looked at them through the lens of a council project, but certainly have been there with them. So look, I'll support the motion with all those caveats. I think it is something important to do. I think we should be modest in how many we send. And I'll probably question if we're funding external parties outside of council staff and elected members, whether we should do that or not. That's not for debate here, but in terms of trying to keep costs down, I'm not saying that we consider. But otherwise, I certainly support it. And for those who do end up going, look forward to hearing from you when you get back.
Thank you. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Stanton, would you like to speak to the motion?
I agree with everything that Deputy Mayor said.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Councillor Backer.
Just a couple of questions. In regards to the appropriate staff, how many staff and how will that be funded?
So we do have a staff education training conference attendance budget, which I think we could probably find the money in for this purpose. I was actually just thinking about whether or not I need to go. Clearly the director does. And I would imagine at least one additional staff member, possibly two, based upon skills, experience and connection to it wouldn't be more than three. And I'm thinking two, but frankly, we haven't discussed that internally. But I'm not going to send half the business. And we do have an internal budget that can accommodate that. As I understand it, there is sufficient funding in that budget to accommodate this. And we'll make sure we don't spend. No business class flights, no 5-star accommodation. It's going to be modest.
So I'll just speak for this, and we do have respectful debate around here. So obviously there's some different opinions around the table, and there's certainly value in travelling. But it would be really nice to have said, okay, is there a way that we could do it? That involves some digital. Pinterest is a great way to find ideas, not just in Australia, but overseas, and you can do that from the comfort of your living room. So look, I'm understanding and listening to those around the table who see the value in this. But again, I'm disappointed it wasn't in the agenda papers. I think that would have been really transparent through our community. And I won't be supporting that just based on the visibility.
Thank you. Any further discussion? If not, I'll head back to Deputy Mayor Mark Wreck to sum up.
Not much more to say. Just probably two things. One is there's nothing like being there. I guess. I learned that when we did the library tour of maybe 5 or 6 libraries in Melbourne when we were looking at this building, and there was great value in going in, looking what the cafe looked like in the reception, looking at what the meeting spaces looked like. And I don't think it quite got the same just by visuals. I think being there gives you that context of scale and volume and location. I think that's something that you do miss out on, although Councillor Backer's point, we should also find that alternative for those that aren't going, or whether that's just part of the presentation and come back. But I think there's value at least some people going. The other issue is I would happily see us save money somewhere else, i.e. operating projects for next year. to fund this sort of stuff. I think we talk about cost of living, we talk about the cost of ratepayers, and you've heard me before talk about let's reduce rates rather than just spend big. But I think if we're concerned, there's probably options for us to look at other cost savings for next year, despite our discussions for most this evening in our budget. But I think this is a fairly modest cost for whatever it might be, 4 or 5 elected members to go. And so on that basis, look, I'm supportive. If it was to, Dubai or something like that, I'd probably be less supportive, but travel is part of what we do in any business. Council is part of that. I will support it and look forward to having a fruitful outcome at the end of it.
Thank you. Let's put it to the vote. All those in favour? Against? Motion carried.
Division?
So who stands? Everybody else? Well, you two.
That's the note, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, Mayor doesn't need to vote on this one.
Just mark it as absent, we'll fix it later.
Okay, thanks everybody for robust discussion tonight and for your contribution. Meeting closed. Oh, sorry, got ahead of myself there. Just getting a bit excited. What happened? But there's nothing on that page.
I think that's an invitation to move the next one's on block members.
No, I didn't even get one point of order. I'm very disappointed. Okay, so reports for information. There are 3 reports for information. As per our protocols, only those items reserved by members will be debated. Does anyone want to pull out item 12.1? No. I want to pull out item 12.2. Does anyone want to pull out item 12.3? Councillor De Backer. So we're voting for item 12.1 on block. All those in favour?
You need to move that second.
Oh, move and second it. Move, I saw that. Saw a second. All those in favour? Motion carried. Item 12.2, the reason for that was Councillor Deputy Mayor Mark Group. 2 minutes. And Mark Stanton as the seconder. Yep.
Was unanimous.
Pulling out the Mayor's monthly activity report. I didn't meet with Councillor Tweena Wynn, which was in the report, but I did meet with Matthew Cooper, who's the owner of Knox Developments. We had a great discussion with him last Friday, and I also attended the well-organised West Ward street corner meeting, which had cake and coffee. So if anybody else is planning on a street corner meeting, then that's the standard, and nothing less than that will be accepted. So do I have a mover, please? Councillor De Backer.
And a question.
Question, yeah.
I know that we had a meeting with Steve Georgianis MP. Was there some advocacy issues raised?
I was able to discuss all of our key advocacy points in that meeting. That was probably most of the focus of the meeting. So I was able to cover off on those. Apart from that, typically at those meetings, what gets raised is if there's any resident concerns that have been raised with his office, they come to us to make sure we're across them. And there wasn't anything that had been raised in the previous period. There was something subsequent to that came through, but in that period before the meeting, there was nothing that had been tabled to his office that he wanted to raise with us. So, yeah, the meeting went pretty smoothly. Unfortunately, the CEO had COVID, so I was carrying the flag, and that's mainly what we spoke about. Okay, second to Councillor Barnett.
Yes.
Let's put it to the vote. All those in favour? Against? Carried unanimously. Item 12.3, Ordinance Committee report to Council. Do I have a mover? Again, do I have a mover?
I'll move it.
Oh, I've already got Deputy Mayor Mark Gregory who's offered to move it. Would you like to speak to the motion?
I would.
Do I have a seconder?
Yes.
Councillor Barnett, would you like to speak to the motion? Is there any further discussion? Councillor De Backer.
pulled it out, that's right. I just, the hyperlink wasn't working on the index.
Ah,
That might
no
help
worries.
you. Yeah, so I did look, I just like to pull out these reports every now and again, because, you know, audit this committee, for some people, like, that it's actually really interesting, and I certainly found the BDO report quite interesting, and certainly highlighting, and I think for years and years, I've talked about dashboard and information, because we can only make decisions on the information that we have to hand. And it's acknowledged in the report that we do need to have better asset data, better visibility, and even the most recent asset data was, and I can be corrected, but was based on information that was already 6 years old. So I think, you know, in terms of council, I know there's lots of work going on at the moment with, you know, traffic counts and ITP and condition reports, but in our budget, like, there was requests to have more funds for people on the ground, and I just think if we neglect our assets and we don't fund it accordingly, it's going to cost us in the long term. So I was on the assets and risk committee for a period of time, and it's certainly worth looking at the good work we're doing, and certainly the risk management that we're doing, which again, if we don't do it, it costs us money, and sometimes these things don't get acknowledged. But I just wanted to thank the author for the report, and I do read them. So yeah, thank you.
Thank you, councillor De Backer. Any further discussion? Otherwise, I'll head back to Deputy Mayor Mark Root for a summary.
I commend the motion.
Thank you. Let's put it to the vote. All those in favour? Against? Carried unanimously. Okay, nearly there. Item 13, council member reports and briefings. Thank you to councillor Nelson and councillor Barnett for their briefings. Are there any other member reports or briefings people would like to table?
I've just sent my very, yeah, so Councillor Barnett and I hosted a Corn Street meeting. So we're trying to host that every 3 months now, and Lava came, which was really good, because some residents like to meet him. So yeah, I would encourage others to attend and encourage others to like promote communication and yeah, just engage communication to yeah. Well, I was trying to encourage business owners and actually make business owners came even though they said what they would. And that's the same with the village heart meetings. So it is really hard to pull them, but yeah, I'm hoping to build up some steam and get more to the farm for the next one. And Lucy could make it because I let her know late, but she said that she'd like to attend the next one. So yeah, I'm just hoping that probably can get showing up on other events as well.
Thank you. Moving on to item 14, motions on notice. There are nil. Questions with notice, nil. Confidential items, nil. Now we can close the meeting. Thanks, everybody. 9:05.